Hi, and welcome to this episode of Being Me. I'm your host, Caroline Kaiduma. Being Me is a self-awareness toolbox, and we talk about every healing modality, wellness modality available in Kenya that will help you safeguard your emotional and mental well-being. Now, today is a special show because we are not particularly talking about any modality. We are talking about the power of the mind. And with me to talk about that is Kinneri Parek, and she's going to tell us a lot about herself and what she does, and then brief us about, what the mind is. Welcome.
Thank you, Carolyn.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do before you tell us about the mind.
So I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, a transpersonal regression therapist, a practitioner of metaphysical anatomy, an NLP life coach. I have also delved a little bit in counseling and psychology, and I'm a Reiki master as well.
Wow, that's a lot. And that's really why you're one of the best fitted people to talk about the power of the mind. And I want us to talk to the viewer who has as basic information as possible. So we'll start from zero. What's the mind?
So we all know that we have a mind.
Yeah.
We know that we operate from the mind.
Yeah.
So what is the mind? So this has been conceptualized and also very credible all across the world. Many scientists, many trainers, many psychologists use this concept of what we call as the mind.
Yeah.
The mind, I think we sometimes equate it to the brain.
Yes.
But it's not the brain. And how do we differentiate the mind?
Yeah.
We get brain tumor, but do we get mind tumor?
Never heard of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the mind, as we understand it, is a ball of energy or a sphere of energy all around us.
So it's all around us.
Yes.
It's not just here.
No, it's an energy. And the center of this mind is the pit of the stomach, the gut.
Oh, really?
And we know primarily that the gut is used for digestion of food.
Yeah.
Yet, why do we say it is the gut? Many people sometimes when they have an intuitive feeling, they get butterflies in the stomach.
Yes. Or a pit in your stomach,
A
like
pit
when
in the
you're
stomach.
scared, yeah.
If we were to cut the stomach open, do you think we'll find butterflies there? Or even eggs of butterflies? No. Yet, this is the place where we find intuition. This is the place where we find butterflies or even knots in the stomach when we know that there is something that we are feeling within. For example, if we say that it's going to rain in Nairobi today, how does one have this intuitive feeling? Or somebody is feeling something that I know something's going to happen today.
Yeah.
Where are they getting this feeling? It is in the gut.
From the gut.
And this is the seed of where our intuition begins from.
Yeah. And that's the center of the mind.
That is the center of the mind.
Yeah.
It is not the brain.
And is the mind just for one person? Or is, because we say my mind, I know it in my mind. So tell us the difference between my mind and the universal mind.
My mind is mine. And my mind put together with everybody else is the universal mind.
So this energy around me is my mind.
Yes.
And then it connects with every other mind.
Completely.
Yeah.
And how does it do that? Let's understand it. So first of all, if I give you an analogy of the mind itself and the brain, it will give a little bit of understanding.
Yeah.
How does the mind connect to the brain? So the brain is in the body. It is a formation in the head. And so I call it, or we call it, the hardware.
Hardware.
And the mind is the software. Mind needs to give input to the brain for it to connect to the body, for the functions to happen.
Yeah.
So that is what the brain is. And when we look at the mind, what do you think our mind is? Like when I wake up from morning, I wake up thinking, I wake up feeling, I logic, I analyze.
Yeah.
I decide and act on decisions. That is pretty much my whole life and my whole day.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is who we are.
Yeah.
Yet, this is only 10 to 12% of who we are.
Where's the
Every day,
rest?
what we do
Yeah.
literally is we think, we feel, we analyze, we logic,
Yeah.
we decide on what we are thinking and feeling,
Yeah.
and then we act on those decisions.
Yeah.
And if this is a 10 to 12%, what is the rest of the
Yeah.
mind?
What's the rest?
Have you ever thought about how you breathe?
How I breathe? No.
Have you ever thought
Conscious.
about how our body functions, how our organs function, how blood is flowing through our body?
It just happens.
So who is in control of all that?
Most would say God.
That is the 90%
Yeah.
of that part of the mind which we are not aware of.
Wow.
And we are not consciously connected or attached to.
Yeah.
And yet it is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Not only is it 90%, it is 6,000 times more powerful than what we know as our conscious mind.
Wow.
And that is literally the iceberg under the sea,
Under the sea. Yeah.
as deep as it is.
Yeah.
And so understanding the mind gives us an understanding of who we are at the subconscious level. And pretty much controlling more than what we know as our conscious mind.
Yeah. So what determines what comes to the surface of the ocean as our conscious thoughts and decisions, therefore our actions? What is it that determines that I will think this and not that?
Correct.
Yeah.
So when we understand the subconscious mind, we have two parts to the subconscious mind. We have a primitive mind, which holds literally the stories of where we come from. So we
Our
don't-
ancestry.
Our ancestors, our evolution, and everything connected to it. And that is literally primitive, as the name suggests.
Like animalistic
Completely.
primitive.
And this is where we have our instinctual mind as well, our fight or flight. That keeps us away from danger, and that keeps us safe.
Yeah.
And we also have that part of us where we are born with it. It is literally in our DNA, in our being.
Yeah.
Two fears, fear of loud noises and fear of falling.
Wait, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So when we are born, we only have those two fears.
Completely.
Fear of falling
And fear of
and
loud
fear
noise.
of loud noises. Where do the rest of the fears come? Do we learn them? Do we?
Those are learned. And why do we say that these are two inborn fears? Have you ever thought about going bungee jumping? How does it feel?
It's just the thought of it is scary.
Exactly. Many people might even have done bungee jumping 10 times.
Yeah.
But the moment they go into that height and look down, that heart will beat or miss a beat.
Yeah.
It is just inborn and it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, it's true. Even roller coasters, like
Completely.
you've done it over and over, but every time feels like it's a first time
It's the first
sometimes. Yeah.
And why loud noises? So have you ever seen a baby or anything, and if we go like, if there's a firecracker popping, how would the baby
Yeah,
feel?
or the door banging.
Yeah.
They just startle.
They're startled.
Yeah.
This is just an inbuilt fear.
Wow.
Yeah.
So those are like parts of the subconscious mind.
Very primitive.
So what are the other
Yes.
parts?
And then there's another part of us which we call the modern memory. And what is the modern memory? It is every experience we have had since the time we were in our mother's womb to the time we are today. It is stored, it's like a storehouse, like an archive
Like
and a
a
library.
hard drive or something.
It is literally a hard drive which holds
Yeah.
every emotion, every memory that we have ever had. From the time we were in our mother's womb to the time we are now.
Wow.
And it is so powerful that it can literally control everything that we are today. And so what happens between the conscious and the subconscious, we have a filter. And that filter begins to develop from the time we are born to the time we are 8 years, in our formative years. And what determines that filter is our conditioning. Our
Conditioning
social,
meaning is what we are exposed to by our caregivers or school or
completely.
our environment or media.
Our social, education, economic, and religious systems. They determine where we come from, how we behave, what we think, what we feel.
And that's how we create the filter. So that's what determines, this is the answer to my question, what determines what comes to the surface and what remains in the background.
Completely.
Wow. And so now that, this is very powerful, it's actually, so now that we are talking about mental and emotional well-being, we are talking about the thoughts that we think and how they affect our life, and the emotions that we feel and how they determine the quality of our life. What do people need to know about the mind so that they can take charge of that? Because according to what you're saying, it might seem that somebody might be in a rut through something that is actually running in the back and not necessarily something that they have chosen to focus on.
Completely.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of the subconscious mind. It is one place, like we said, that we are connected to our intuitive part through that. It is a place where we get logical answers to all the illogical questions or situations we have. And what is so illogical in our lives, where we can get logical answers? The most illogical question we have or situation we have in our life is where we feel victims. Or we ask, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Why are other people better off and why am I not?
Yeah.
Why am I going through all these issues where other people are not?
Yeah.
So what determines that? It is our conditioning. And that conditioning begins from the time we are in our mother's womb to the time we are 8 years old.
Yeah.
Because everything that we perceive, like say we are when we are children, we don't have a conscious mind. It is a clean slate. We are born with a clean slate.
Yeah.
And as we grow up, where we are born is what determines how we think, feel, and the emotions that are settled in the subconscious. Because the children don't have filter, everything goes in the subconscious, direct. That is what determines who we become, why we become that way, our thought patterns and our emotions.
Yeah.
And beyond the age of 8, of course, when our filter begins to happen, children start thinking in duality, and you've probably seen that even in school.
Yeah.
They start thinking, I like this color, I don't like this color. I prefer this, I don't prefer this.
I like boys, I don't like boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where is this coming from?
Yeah.
This is the filter that begins to develop, and then they start seeing life in that manner.
Yeah.
And what primarily determines then what they become is literally where they are born, the culture, the religion, the educational system, social interaction.
Yeah.
And so, for example, think about people or children born in Kibera
Yeah.
versus children born in maybe a little more better area.
Yeah.
Yet the truth is the truth as we see it. There is no right, there is no wrong.
Yeah.
But for a child in Kibera, their truth might be different from somebody who's born beyond.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what determines is this thing, that where we are.
Yeah.
And when we then decide who we become through that is what now manifests.
It becomes a physical lived experience.
Completely.
And with this experience generates more evidence for our filter. And so it's like we are, unless we take charge of our mind, I believe, we are stuck in that pattern, right?
Unless we understand what made us who we are stuck in that pattern.
Wow. I want us to go on a break and then come back. And when we come back from the break, you'll talk to us about how can we begin to understand what drives us? How can we begin to understand what we are working with so that we can decide whether to keep some or leave some? Because when we're talking about mental and emotional well-being, it's about decision. It's about saying enough of this life. I want to create this life. And I think it begins with maybe taking back the power of your mind. And yeah, so we'll come back after the break. Guys, thank you for staying with us on this particular special episode of The Power of the Mind. We're going to go on a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about more and also relate it to this time that we are going through a pandemic. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to Being Me, a show that is a self-awareness toolkit. I'm your host, Caroline Kaiduma, and we are back from a break. And on this episode, which is a special episode, we're talking about the power of the mind with Kinneri Parek. And we were talking about how it's important for us to take back our mind, because as you're saying, a lot of our conditioning and socialization gives us the material that we are using to create our physical experiences. So how can I take charge of that, so that now I have a choice to say, okay, I'm going to remove this belief or this programming to create the life that I want?
So, as I was talking about how we are creating our belief systems through where we are,
Yeah.
We must understand that we receive information from everywhere. Everybody does.
Yeah.
So, let's take a child or whoever, that they receive information, say from the environment, from the body, from our subconscious mind,
Yeah.
and everywhere. And that information is going through into the mind, into the software of our mind.
Yeah.
It is being processed in our conscious mind of what we think. Now, at the end of the day, when we go to sleep, it is being filtered down. It is being sieved literally and filtered down. So what filters down into the subconscious is the feelings or emotions we have had about what we have perceived or received as information.
Not thoughts, emotions.
Thoughts, we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and so many of them are so useless.
Yeah.
So what is sieved down is what we feel about things, what we judge about things.
Is this what is happening when we are dreaming?
Correct.
So the dream state, or our dreaming, is like we are processing and sieving,
Completely.
internalizing sort of the feelings.
Yes, and that goes into our modern memory. Now remember that this mind is 6,000 times more powerful.
Yeah.
So how does it categorize in the subconscious mind? So any experiences which are known to us are categorized as pleasure. And anything that is not known to us, the mind understands it as
Wow.
pain. So what is pleasurable is known. For example, I'll say, a child growing up in a family, maybe a dysfunctional family, and she sees her father beating the mom all the time, an abusive family. So for a child, this becomes a known. So this is pretty much a person's life, what they see and what they feel about it. And this becomes a known thing. Now, the power is 6,000 times more than the conscious mind. It will manifest.
So wait, so because, as you're saying, because they see this, even though it's dysfunction, they see this every day, so their mind categorizes it as pleasure. That's
As
what
a
you're
positive, yes. Pleasure, positive.
saying. Wow.
And so that is what will manifest. Now, what do you think the result might be? Say if it's a girl child who is looking at this.
Yeah.
She might just find a man who's equally bad, an abuser.
Yeah.
And this I have seen many times. If it's a boy, might see the father doing it and might continue the behavior because
Yeah.
that's a known thing.
But what if the conscious, because I see a lot of people, they are going through something they consciously don't like, but somehow they are stuck in the pattern of creating the same experience, even though consciously they don't want it to happen, and they're actually doing a lot to avoid the scenario.
So the conscious mind is where we create rules of life.
Rules.
We want to change something, so that's a rule we want to change.
Yeah.
But we have a part of us which is experiential. It holds experiences, and it is 6,000 times more powerful. Who do you think will win?
Of course, the subconscious will win.
This is what's happening.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have addiction. We know that addiction is not good.
Yeah.
We know that we want to stop it.
Yeah.
We consciously try everything, create more willpower, determination, and everything. But maybe in the subconscious mind,
Yeah.
if it is a known thing, a pleasurable thing, how do you think it will fare? In the end,
Yeah.
something will not work.
Yeah, even willpower won't be enough.
Correct.
So what do we have? What can we do? Because aside from addictions and abusive relationships, there's a self-talk
Yes.
that gets people into a very bad mental and emotional state, that even if drugs are not involved, even if nobody else is involved, you're continuously just stressed or pessimistic or negative.
And this goes for emotions as well. It's not just addictions or anything else.
Yeah.
Emotions are also the same. So if we have an emotion which is in the mind, a part of the mind that is pleasure,
Yeah.
this is what will manifest and this is what will carry on. This is the law of attraction that we are talking about, that anything that we seriously feel about, we will magnify it and manifest it. So what can be done about it?
Yeah.
Through the therapies that we do, of course, we can help a person release it by accessing the subconscious mind, getting to the root cause of what the issue was, what the emotions were, where they were in the body, helping them release it. There's another way we can actually do it, which if people choose to. So a dream state is also for venting anything that we don't want, but that is a long process. We can meditate, breath work works, and hypnosis, of course, is the easiest and the best way.
Yeah. And that's why I'm loving this conversation, because we are going to feature so many modalities. And the reason why I decided to do this special episode with you is so that people can understand the reason why it's important to try different modalities, because I feel that the work that we need to do on our mental and emotional is more on a subconscious level. And all these modalities, as you said, meditation, hypnosis and breath work, and all this can help to access that. So right now we are going through a pandemic, COVID. Most people have spent a lot of their time on the media, watching different things that elicit fear, hopelessness and all these things, because we are at home, people have lost their jobs, there's a narrative about what's going to happen, is there a life after COVID? What is the impact of what we're going through right now in our minds?
Very interesting. I have seen personally, and I have also been reading, watching things.
Yeah.
And I, of course, see things in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
There are people who have actually come out with videos saying that even though COVID is there are ways we can tap into this situation and make it better.
Yeah.
Then there are those who have taken the fear into this and dived more into depression or loneliness or anything else, and are in a worse state than they were before because of the anxiety and the worry of what might happen.
Yeah.
So the mind is the same for everyone. How we choose to understand it, how we choose to relate to it and work with it is every individual's call.
Yeah.
And so, like we said before, that the mind, it develops through where we are and how we become through it, what we think, feel, and act through it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the ways that we can actually help ourselves, first of all, of course, changing thought patterns, but thought patterns just can't change like that.
Yeah.
Help is available.
Yes.
And there is always trauma where it all began. So really healing the trauma to empower ourselves to be better and take hold of what the situation is, because situations are so transient. Anything can happen anytime. This is COVID. People's lives could change in a moment.
Yeah.
So not holding on to the disaster or the eventuality. These therapies can help us empower ourselves to face situations in life, including COVID.
Including COVID. And I like that, because, as you're saying, it could go either way for everybody. Because, again, tell us about, to the mind, is there right and wrong? Because knowing this has really liberated me, because knowing whether the mind thinks this is right or wrong is what is going to help you now take power of, charge of your mind and make a decision based on what you want to experience. So does the mind know that as this is wrong or this is right? And what makes it determine what is right and what is wrong?
So right and wrong is so subjective. Take an example of, say we have these chokoras. They have a life to live.
Yeah.
Their life is about survival.
Yeah.
Wherever they are, maybe pickpocketing or begging is the ultimate that they will do.
Yeah.
There is no wrong for them.
Yeah.
This is their livelihood. Maybe, for example, maybe a chokora's father or mother is asking them to pickpocket,
Yeah.
and that becomes their service to their parents.
Yeah.
Not only that, maybe they take 100 shillings to their mother and the mother is so happy that they get a sweet out of it. What do you think is right? Yet here we are, say, we think that we are never going to steal or we are never going to beg because our belief system doesn't permit it.
Yeah.
So our right may not be somebody's right.
Somebody's right, yeah.
So it's so subjective. Understanding that right or wrong comes back to our childhood, where we have gotten it from, how we have processed information through our conditioning. And so what helps is literally going back to where it came from. Is it ours or did we create it?
Yes.
Were we influenced by it?
Influenced, yeah.
So understanding and becoming aware through really going back to that subconscious. And it's a beautiful state of being, to be in that altered awareness.
Yeah.
There's nothing to worry about, because many people feel when they think of hypnosis, they think that it's mind control. It is not. Just accessing the subconscious mind is accessing that part of you which is so intuitive, which is so silent, so peaceful. It is literally the calm waters under the sea, but it holds enough for us to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. And I want you, before we finish this show, definitely share with us an experience you've encountered, whether yourself or a client, that has been as a result of them or you understanding the power of the mind. Like, what has changed for you of somebody you've worked with?
I have many cases, but perhaps I think when I talk of myself, I see why it happened to me. In childhood, I think when I was very young, I grew up in a very large extended family. And my dad is the number 5 of 6 brothers, literally the second last born. And I guess he came from a family where their brothers were controlling and family business. But as a child, what my problem was that I always felt inferior. I had so many cousins who were more intelligent as I perceived them to be. And I always felt that I was never enough. I was never enough or never compared to them. My whole life, this is what I've struggled with, that I am worthless. I am never enough. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And even as I struggled to that, everything that I attracted in my life only
Like, give
reflected
you proof of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
My choices became that. The kind of friends I had, the kind of clothes I would buy, the kind of thinking I had always reflected on this. Including my education. I did not finish anything.
Wow.
And I never understood why I didn't do that. I had a brilliant job, actually, a very challenging, brilliant job in a high-profile organization. They respected me enough. They gave me enough to do. They showed me, they trained me, and I should have valued it.
Yeah.
What I did instead was the negative thinking that I had. And I actually sabotaged my life to a point where I went into depression. I had illnesses. My body wasn't working for me. And I understand that it is only through my thinking and feeling that I did that, because I
Yeah.
never felt enough.
Yeah.
And I had to resign from my job because I
Yeah.
couldn't go on.
Yeah.
For a few months, I sat at home and trying to think, where am I? What am I doing? Why am I not seeing answers in my life? I went into psychology thinking that, that will give me something
Yeah.
that I can understand myself. It wasn't enough. I went into counseling, helping people. But if I'm not healed, how do you think I'm going to heal
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
And then someone suggested, why don't you do neuro-linguistic programming? That might give you an answer, because that deals with the subconscious
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
It tweaked a little bit of interest, the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And even as I did NLP, my point of interest was hypnosis. But nothing was really formulating for me to find myself. And when clinical hypnotherapy happened and this trainer came to Kenya,
Yeah.
the first day that I sat in the class, and when he explained the mind,
Yeah.
I was home.
Wow.
I knew I had seen myself.
Yeah.
And going through this training, not only was I learning, I was healing.
Healing. Yeah.
And when he took me back into the moments that had sabotaged my life, because this is accessing the subconscious,
Yeah.
literally releasing it from my subconscious, my life changed. I'm not saying in days, I am
Yeah.
saying immediately.
Wow. Wow.
I am saying immediately my emotional state was different from then on. I had lost a sister when I was about 18 and she was about 7. And to me, she was literally like my child. And losing a part of me was literally, I shut down.
Yeah.
But this therapy changed my life, overcoming this, overcoming grief,
Yeah.
overcoming my not feeling good enough. And this is where a door opened for an opportunity for me to help heal people.
Wow.
There cannot be more than that.
Man, that's
And
powerful.
this is what I live with every day now.
Yeah. And I totally feel you, because a lot of people are going through patterns of thinking that originate from being told that they are not good enough, or being shown or being treated as if they are not good enough, and they are not even consciously aware that that's what is happening. They are not aware of their patterns, and so they keep repeating these patterns and they don't understand. And that's when they begin to ask questions like you were saying, why me? What's happening to me? But I feel like when you understand, like you've really given us a powerful explanation of what the mind is. And I feel like taking back your life is also about taking responsibility and realizing that this is my mind. I'm working with something that I was given as I was growing up. And if I take responsibility of that to, first of all, know it, then I can change it. So we are almost ending the show. And this is so sad because I just feel like this conversation needs to go on and on. How can somebody find you if they want to have this conversation, or, just get to learn more about the mind?
Unfortunately, I don't have a website. I mean, it's in the process.
Yeah.
But again, I guess as we are growing older, technology is a bit... Though they can find me on Facebook. My page is Kinnari Parekh.
Yeah.
I do share sometimes, but I'm not too active. I'm there. They can message me.
Yes.
And I guess I will leave you with a phone number or something that that will help them contact me.
Yeah.
Yes, I am accessible through Facebook.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. Yeah, you can reach Kinnari through us. If you have any questions, you can send them to us. If this has not changed your life, I don't know what will, because I have learned so much on the power of the mind. I have learned so much on patterns and thoughts and emotions, and I'm very glad that you have joined us for this special episode. And I hope that with what we have learned in this episode, moving to the other following episodes, you'll be able to quite get the therapies that we'll be talking about and how they are relating to mental and emotional well-being. So Kinneri, thank you so much for showing up and really showing up fully and really enlightening us about everything that the mind constitutes. So what would you tell somebody as your parting shot? What would you tell somebody who really needs to understand this, like is stuck in a rut or in depression, and they probably are in the total bottom of the victim mindset? What would you tell them? Just tell them who's that camera.
I would tell everyone that be aware, be honest with yourself, and trust yourself that it's not the end of the world and there's nothing wrong in seeking therapy. It's not a stigma anymore. It's about you. It's about your own healing. It's about your own empowerment. So go out there and find something that will help you overcome what you're going through.
Thank you so much. I'm sure they heard you, and I'm sure they're going to take the step, they're going to take action. And from here on this show, we are going to bring as many therapies as possible so that people can choose, because not one thing works for everybody, you know. People, you know, align to different things, and so we'll bring the whole spread for them to choose from. Thank you again. And to you, dear viewer, we thank you so much for keeping it here, for sharing, for commenting, for liking, for subscribing, for clicking on the notifications button. We really do appreciate, and we hope that you're learning, and we hope that your life is changing, and we hope that you're growing from it. And we really appreciate the truest essence of you. And until the next episode, I've been your host, Caroline Gaiduma, and from me and the team, it's bye-bye.